On today's show, we're going to be talking about some of the books that we've been reading. So we read a lot of comic books. Sometimes they don't necessarily fit into the show. We pass.
We take the comic and we're like, get in the show. Get in. It's like,
Get in
no,
the show.
I don't want to get in the show.
The show's like, no.
So we're like, well, what about a compromise? We do this, we get in, and they're like, well, all right then.
Yeah. And there's some like producers just pulling the strings.
No, it's just us.
It's just us, unfortunately. So this is the book we talk about. Some of the odd little books that we've been reading that don't necessarily fit into the show. Do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. Longest intro ever. So we were recommended many a time on the show to read this by viewers. I'm not sure who. Sorry. And it is Lil Depressed Boy, Volume 1. Written by Stephen Strubble. Strubble?
Okay.
I'm going to go Strubble. And drawn by Sina Grace. This follows the adventures of a little depressed boy in everyday life. And this first volume follows his kind of, falling in love. Falling in love. This book is very sweet, to put it mildly. It's just so full of charm, this book. The character of Little Depressed Boy isn't actually as depressed as the title would give off.
Yeah, I mean, this is his descent.
This is his descent into depression. Well, he starts off fairly depressed, then he's happy, and then he's depressed. And yeah, this book is just so lovely and so full of charm, and I really enjoyed it, and I know yourself, you also really enjoyed it because you read it, and I sat there reading this going, yeah, this is going to be a Dan book, definitely. And I think, yeah.
You're right.
You're far more qualified to talk about a book like this than myself.
You just absolutely burn through it. It's just so easy to read.
Yeah.
It makes you make all the noises. It makes you feel all the things.
There's
really not much to say about it because it's one of those, if you think you're going to like it, then you will.
Yeah. And yeah, I thought I was going to like it and I really enjoyed it. So thank you for suggesting it. I don't really know what else I can say. Dan, what have you brought to the table today?
Well, I brought an odd little book called Peanut by Ian Halliday and Paul Hopp. And
that was supposed to be me hopping.
No, iFanboy wrote an article about this book, and I saw sort of the premise, and I thought, yeah, that sounds like something I'd like. And basically, it is about a girl called Sadie who goes to a new school, and for whatever reason, as like a talking point or whatever, she tells people she's got a peanut allergy. And that's it. That's the premise. And the premise is her just trying to like keep that up in her day to day, and the lie obviously gets worse, and there's a big kind of thing at the end where it sort of comes out, but it's just sort of a coming of age story. It's about Sadie and being in a new school and that experience of a new environment and first love and all of that stuff with this peanut thing. And like, this is so good. Like, this is so sweet and funny and just really well drawn. It's black and white, except for her like top, which is always like an orangey peach color, like throughout. But like, it's just really cartoony, and the expressions are really nice. It's quite kind of similar to a manga. It has that style, but it just doesn't have the Japanese thing. It's just really overly
tentacles. I'm sure I just offended many people.
It's just cartoony, like Quentin Blake, just really expressive and just a really nice style, and it's just very funny. It's written in a very, very confident way. And, everyone has been through this thing. Everyone has had these feelings. Everyone has had these feelings of alienation and trying to fit in. And this book does such a wonderful, charming job of dealing with that. It's quite similar to Little Depressed Boy in many ways. Just naturalistic story about heartwarming things that we've all been involved in and that we all have to deal with. So, if you live in the UK, it's quite hard to get hold of. You'll have to import it probably, but it's worth it. It's fantastic.
I might have to give it a read.
Yeah.
Now, Dan...
Yeah.
In your life, I'm sure many people say to you, have you watched this film? And you say no, and they give you that look. They give you that, I cannot believe you've seen that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that happens with musicians. There are a few, or games that you haven't played. And there are with comics as well. And the big one for myself, and I know you're also guilty of this, is Preacher. You know, a lot of people have said to me, how can I be a comic book fan if I haven't read Preacher? Well, I have finally gone, and I have finally read Garth Ennis's Preacher, drawn by Steve Dillon. So I can now finally cross that off the list of, comic book sins that I am yet to do. This book is amazing. It's so good. The basic story is that there's this character, our preacher, who, he's had troubles in his past, turns to God, and he gets his body taken over by a angel, basically a new god, who would disprove everything that God's ever stood for. He questions angels on how this has happened, and they basically say, well, God quit. God quit about 2,000 years ago, and he's just kind of been chilling out on Earth ever since then. So he makes it his mission, along with a couple of friends of his, to travel the country and go and find God. And in this first issue, it's through Texas, the religious heartland of America. And, it's a crazy premise, but this book is it just delivers on the premise so well. There's mystery, there's intrigue, there's such good characters in here. I mean, and the way the characters are written, there's this one he's British. Doesn't say that he's British for the first couple of issues, but the second I started reading him, I was like, well, he's British, from the dialect that he's using. It's those small things that a lot of writers tend to get wrong, but Garth Ennis is just nailed with this. The artwork is fantastic. The humour is fantastic. It's really quite funny, this book. I don't know what else to say other than if you have not read it, you have to go and read this.
How many volumes are there?
It goes up to nine volumes in total, and that is it. I fully intend to keep reading it. I want to see what happened to God in this book. And that's only touching the tip of the iceberg of what this book is about. Special shout out to Arseface in the book, one of the best named supervillains ever.
Okay, so the final book we're going to be talking about. We talked about Superior Spider-Man on the show.
Yes, we did.
Originally, when the 700th thing happened, and the Doc Ock becoming Spider-Man, spoiler, and then
it's been about how many months now?
Yeah, it was ironic. But and then Superior Spider-Man issue 1, which we both slated.
Yeah, we both read.
Then you came back with Charlie.
Yep.
And Charlie wanted to read the trade, was it? No, it wasn't the trade.
Superior Spider-Man issue 6, I want to say.
So you caught up.
Yep.
And loved it.
Yep.
So then I was like...
You're obligated.
I'm obligated then to go and pick it up. So they just released the trade.
Yep.
And I read it, and I'm with you.
Yeah, it's great.
And do you know what it is? I don't think I appreciated the opportunity for humor that this premise brings up. Because really you don't get any of that in the... It is quite a weak first issue in that it's just... Now you've got Spider-Man, it's Doc Ock, a few things have changed, it's just whatever. And then, Peter Parker's trying to get his body back. And it just felt hokey to me at the time. But when you start having Peter Parker, it's just funny. I thought it was going to be overly serious and sinister, but it's not. It's really, really funny and lighthearted. And when you start having Doc Ock doing things and Peter's constant reaction to that and playing off it, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
It is so much fun to read and genuinely funny. There's one moment where Doc Ock says something to Mary Jane, and I don't remember what it is, but it's just something that obviously
wording.
Peter wouldn't say. And then there's this image, which is just fantastic, of Peter Parker just going, he's doing supervillain stuff. How doesn't anyone notice this? It's just, honestly, great. And then there is a more serious tone, which is, this is now a Spider-Man which is so much more effective than Peter Parker has ever been.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He does the spider bots thing and Peter Parker's there going, "Wow, that's actually a really good idea."
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
exactly, and stuff like that, and right at the end of this book, there's a twisty-roo.
Yeah.
Well, that you sort of see coming anyway, and you know, makes you think, makes you question that old. It's usually a Batman philosophy. We see it there, but now we're seeing it here with Spider-Man, which is what lengths do you go, and to what extent is it your fault if these supervillains keep coming back? So, honestly, if you were put off by our review and you didn't want to pick this up, or you felt the same way that we did, and you weren't happy with Doc Ock being Peter Parker, and you weren't sure how this was going to turn out, and you didn't like the first issue, I'm with Dale. I would say you got to give it another try. I really enjoyed this, and I'm now book that I'm reading. So,
yeah, fantastic, brilliant. So that's all we have today and this week. But we want to know, what are some of the books that you've been reading?
Let us know.
You know, because as we've proven, we do read them. So please leave it down in the comments below. Also over on Twitter @ComicBookShow1.
Yeah, and next week we're reviewing Superman.
Woo!
It's the big week. It's what we've all been leading up for the last couple of weeks. So make sure to subscribe to get access to that, and we will see you then.
We're like, get in the show. It's like, no, I want to get in the show.
Like, no.